So let's begin now, team. So we'll just have a discussion about what's new in this AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate certification. So let's begin now, team. The AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. So first of all, I wanted to give you an idea about the first thing, like what exactly is the AWS certification track? Like what is basically you can expect when you talk about the AWS certification. That is the first thing I would like to discuss with your team. The second thing is that first is always about what are the certifications AWS is having. The second thing is that I would like to discuss about what is a AWS architect certification and why this certification is actually different from the other AWS exams. Okay, and I'll give you some ideas on how to prepare for the new examination for the AWS certified solutions architect associate. So before I start discussing about this team, I would like to give you some key points, which I always say in my sessions, webinars, and all these things. Okay, this is a very important point. I would like to always make you understand, team. The first thing is that when you basically go for any kind of trainings and all, okay, there are two things you always have to understand. First is that you have a skills. Second is that you have a certifications. Okay, definitely when you have a certification, like for example, Krish, I want to take the AWS certification, or maybe I want to take the Azure certification or GCP certification. Like that is a very good thing. Like, many people ask me this thing that whether which certification they have to go for. Like having a certification is definitely will increase your demand for sure, and a lot of benefits you have when you go for the certifications. But when you want to get into a job profile, like for example, if you're planning to start your career in cloud computing, or let's say anything like this, like security or cloud computing or development or anything like that, okay, if you're planning for a career in cloud in any of the technologies, okay, certifications definitely play a very important role, because that is a primary point of acceptance by the employer, like whether they will definitely check if you have a certification. But more than that, more than any certification, it is your skill which is getting validated, right? More than any certifications, it is your skills which is getting validated. Because end of the day, so like most of the people know that when you go for most of the certifications, you will get a lot of practice questions, brain dumps, and all these things in the internet. And using that, there are many people who try to pass the examination. So because of that reason, okay, certifications are key definitely, but still the skills is what is basically getting validated. Okay, that is a primary thing. So what I'm going to tell you is that how this AWS certifications, which is basically coming up, is changing the way you are thinking about the certifications. Okay. So first of all, in the AWS track, okay, in the AWS track team, we have multiple certifications actually. Okay, we have multiple certifications. The first and the primary level of certification in AWS is that we have something called as a foundation level. Like for example, let's say if you are a manager, or if you're a person who just want to start with the cloud computing or basically the AWS services, you can go to the AWS certified cloud practitioner certification. Definitely it's a really good certification team. Like for example, let's say if you're a person, you are saying, Krish, I want to basically learn the basics of cloud computing, or I just want to know what exactly is the AWS cloud platform, or what are the common service in the AWS, or what all capabilities AWS is having, you can definitely go to the AWS certified cloud practitioner certification. But let's say what my recommendation is that if you are basically a person who is already having a cloud knowledge, and if you want to work as a cloud architect, or if you want to specialize your skills in cloud computing, this can be sometimes avoided. Okay. And the next level of certification which is there by AWS is what we call as a associate level certifications. So when you say the word associate level certifications, okay, it means that so AWS is expecting you to have at least 1 to 3 years of experience in cloud computing. Like for example, let's say if I'm telling you that I want to go for a AWS architect exam or developer exam or sysops exam or anything like this, it's good that AWS expect you to have at least 1 to 3 years of exposure to the AWS cloud platform. But it's completely fine, because anyway we are discussing from the scratch, so it won't be a trouble to you. So in the associate level certification, AWS is having 3 certifications now. One is basically the AWS certified solutions architect associate. One is the AWS Certified Developer Associate, and one is the AWS Certified SysOps Administrator Associate. And out of these certifications, these two are the one which is basically had some serious changes in this for the last 6 to 8 months. So this certification already have had some changes happened. Like for example, if you want to now pass this exam, you have to write the exam, plus in the examination itself you have to do the labs as well. It's basically a, it's a bit more advanced now. And now we have this certification also, which is getting updated, and that is what we are here to discuss. Okay, so I will tell you the key difference between what is the difference between the AWS architect and the AWS sysops administrator first of all. So team, what is the key difference between a operations guy and an architect? Or let's say, what is the difference between an engineer and an architect? Either if you go for construction or if you go for technology or anything like that, we have an engineer and we have an architect. What is the difference, team? Exactly. So architect is the one who designs solutions. Like for example, you want to build a house, you will go to architect, like, and based on your ideas, he help you to convert your ideas into practically feasible solutions. Okay, and basically what is the role of engineer? He just makes sure that these things are properly executed in a step-by-step manner and is implemented and managed and well maintained as the way you are expecting, right? The same difference is basically there. So Krish, I'm learning for this AWS architect, so do we have to learn separately for this? So I would say that team, if you're a person who is learning in a more hands-on perspective, if you're a person who is trying to learn more of a technical, hands-on perspective, you don't have to learn these two things separately. Because end of the day, what I feel personally is that almost 70 to 80% topics is 100 definitely common in these two certifications. And what the difference is that the perspective that they are asking the questions. So here they will be asking questions in a more architectural point of view. Like they will be asking you, this is the requirement we are having, so basically which is the best cloud solution for that? So I want to host a web application. So while if I'm planning to host a web application, what exactly is the kind of storage for this particular requirement we have to choose, or how do we choose a particular kind of database for our requirement? Like that, this is more about a questions is about the architectural and design perspectives. And in this exam, the questions are more about how to troubleshoot this, how to fix it, how to implement it, like what change you have to make to do this. Like it's more of a operations perspective. That's a key difference between these two examinations. And of course, right, like passing these exams is not a tough thing. It's all about your hands-on expertise, which is basically important to us. We will come to this in very much detail, team. This is the simple difference between solutions architect and associate and systems administrator. I have seen many people ask questions, so Krish, which one I have to go for? Whether do we have to go for the architect or sysops? So what I prefer is that, team, it's nothing like that. What my personal goal or personal recommendation is that end of the day, you are up to 80 to 85% topics you're learning is exactly the same only. So basically what happens, even if you learn the AWS architect associate or systems administrator associate, you're getting almost the same things only. So that won't be a trouble for you. Okay, end of the day, the perspective and the hands-on skills is what very important to us to understand. Okay, and then we have something called as a developer associate. So Krish, the developer associate is only for developers. That is a very common myth I am always facing in this queries. So what is a AWS certified developer associate? So this certification is not only for developers, team, like anyone who want to implement the things, like even it can be developers, it can be testers, it can be DevOps engineers. So it can be, so if you are a person who is working in the code, or if you are a person who has to handle the application hosting, application development, and the end-to-end application workflow and all, definitely this certification can definitely help you a lot. And there is a lot of topics overlapping between all these certifications as well. But why it's called as an associate level? The reason why we call this in an associate level is because in the associate level certification, you are learning the same things, like you're learning almost everything, but the difference is that the level you are learning. For example, let's say in AWS architect associate, you are learning about database. The same thing when it comes to the next level called as professional level, you are learning in a bit more detail, like the same services, same topics, you're learning in a bit more detail or bit more advanced design perspective. That's a key difference if you go for a associate and professional certification. But anyway, this is a very important starting point if you are a person who want to start with the AWS architecting or learning AWS. Like if you're asking me, Krish, where do I start if I want to learn AWS? I will always recommend you can basically go for this one or either this one. But personally, in my recommendation, I prefer this more because it gives you a more widespread idea on what exactly is you have to learn. Then finally, then the next thing is the team, we have something called as a professional level certification. Okay, professional level certification. When you say professional level certifications, it is basically the most advanced AWS certifications. Like this is the top level AWS certifications. Like for example, let's say if you are an AWS architect or if you are having more than 6 to 8 years experience and if you want to get certified in AWS, this is something which you can go for. This is what we call as a AWS. There are two certifications there which we call as a AWS architect professional and DevOps engineer professional. So whatever things you study in the AWS architect associate is exactly what you're studying in this professional, but in a much more detailed way. To give you an example, team, now I'm talking to you about the concept of storage or let's say monitoring in the associate level. The same thing, how do I do this monitoring for advanced applications, or how do I do this monitoring for a more sophisticated design? That is what we are learning in this professional. So whatever things we are learning in the associate, we are learning in a bit more detail in the professional level. And then we have a DevOps engineer. This is definitely a bit complicated certification, but still, when you say it's a DevOps engineer certification, it's not about learning the DevOps tools in the on-premises. So, team, when you say DevOps, the first thing is that, team, what is a DevOps? Like anyone, can you tell me what is DevOps in your perspective? Definitely development and operations. So I'll just give you a very simple high level overview, just a very high overview of what is DevOps, because it's a very good thing to understand. Like for example, when you say agile and DevOps, both are two sides of a coin. I'll give an example, team. Now there are companies who is working in application development and all, and basically what happens, previously a long back, when you go to a company where you're developing some applications, they follow some traditional kind of software development models like waterfall model, etc., for developing the application. Like for example, first of all, the developer will develop something and the tester will test it. Again, there are some bugs, and basically what happens, these people will work in two different perspectives. See, team, which is the word that brings happiness to testers and sad to developers? So the goal of a developer is to develop an application without any bug on it, and the goal of a tester is to somehow find a bug on it, right? So like end of the day, this development team, testing team, operations team, and all these guys are working multiple poles, and actually they are working in the multiple poles. So basically what we do is that, team, as they are working in multiple poles like this, there is a lot of lag in the performance or lot of performance glitches which is happening for the organization. To bypass the glitches, what the company do is that the companies now adopt something called as a agile model, where the things go much faster and the team members and the development team members, testing members, operations members, and everyone interact each other to make sure the things and process happens in a more effective way. But how do we implement agile? Like we use Scrum and all these things, but how do you implement agile? For implementing agile, we have a methodology there to, or we have a culture, or we have a methodology which helps us to do that, called as DevOps. It's a kind of technology, it's a kind of philosophy, it's a kind of practice which basically helps us to implement DevOps effectively. Okay, so like we use a lot of tools also as a part of it. Like for example, we have a Docker, Kubernetes, Chef, Puppet, Ansible, AWS, Azure, QFT. A lot of tools we use for deploying this DevOps. So by implementing DevOps, the process can be much more effective and faster to us. We will definitely have a discussion on that DevOps in the near future. But anyway, I'm just telling you on that. Okay, so when it comes to the cloud platform, we can make this DevOps even more simplified. Okay, like team, how many people here are aware of at least one or two DevOps tools? How many people has worked on at least some of the DevOps tools like Ansible or let's say Docker or Kubernetes or anything like that? Definitely by having the containers, definitely by having Ansible, definitely by having Chef, by having all these things, your performance is basically very much improved. Your company is saving a lot of money and benefits. But managing these things like containers and all is a very hectic job, right? That is why we basically go for something called as a cloud-based DevOps. That means that we can implement this DevOps tools and the whole DevOps process in the cloud platform. So basically what happens, the cloud service provider will manage a lot of things for us in the perspective of DevOps. So that is basically what we are focusing in this AWS certified DevOps engineer professional, like automating things and how to ensure that end-to-end DevOps flow happens properly, and all these things is what we see in the professional level. I would say that when it comes to the examination perspective or learning perspective, these two are the most toughest certifications which I have ever written in AWS. Because trust me, these two certifications are something which is very tough to pass. It's not so tough, I'm saying, but still it needs a lot of expertise. It needs a lot of hands-on skills and understanding of the technology if you want to pass this examination. Okay, that's it. See, there is a lot of AWS certifications. Previously, basically what happens is a team, if you want to write an AWS exam, there was a lot of, prerequisites. Like for example, previously when I wrote the exam, when I started, so first of all, you have to finish the associate level exam. Then you have to finish the professional level exam. Then you can go for the specialty exam. This is how it works previously. But now anybody can write any AWS exam directly without any prerequisites. AWS now allows you to write any AWS exam. It can be associate or professional or specialty or any AWS exam directly without any kind of prerequisites. Okay, like now let's say if you want to directly write the AWS certified security specialty, you can write the exam. If you want to write DevOps engineer, you can write that, no problem. Like any AWS exam you can write directly now, it won't be trouble. Got it? Perfect. Now, the next one is team. We have a specialty level. So Chris, this will be more tougher. Trust me team, this is basically much more easier. Why? Because this is focused. This is a level of certification which is focused on a particular kind of aspect. For example, let's say team, if you go for the thing called as AWS Certified Security Specialty, so whatever you know in the AWS, like implementing things, deploying things, identity access management, network security, application security, encryption. So whatever things you're learning in AWS, you can focus specifically on the security part of it. If you go for this certification, this particular certification, you can focus on the security aspect of the cloud platform. If you go for this one, you have to only focus on the networking aspects of the AWS cloud platform. Like this, the specialty certification focus on your specialized skills. Now let's assume that you're going to you're working in a company as a security architect, or you're working in a company as a database expert. So in that case, what we can do, so you can get your skills in the AWS certified specifically on the area you're working on. So which gives you more visibility and value. That is why we go for a specialty level certification. Okay, that's it. This is the current number of specialty certification which is getting released. And now this also is going to have a change in the near future. Like this also is going to change. But as of now, other certifications are keeping on normal only. Okay, these are the AWS certification track which we have to understand. I'm just giving you a high level overview. That's all. Okay, so if a person want to start the career in cloud computing, especially in AWS, they have to start with any one of the associate level examination. Then they can learn either professional or specialty. Okay, that is what I recommend in the primary case. We will definitely discuss more about this certification now. This is what the whole webinar is for. Before that, team, do you have any queries to ask me on this? Let's assume that I am working as a I just want to become a cloud security architect. Okay, or cloud security expert. So let's say you took the AWS certified cloud practitioner, then you go for the AWS solutions architect associate, then you go for the AWS solutions architect professional, then you go for the AWS security specialty. It is definitely a good idea to go for this. Okay, it's definitely a good idea to go for this, but still in the examination perspective, I don't prefer you go in this track because it consumes a lot of time and money for you. So to avoid this, what my recommendation is that you can cut this thing. You can basically avoid this thing, and you can basically go for the AWS certified architect first of all. then you can go for the rest of the things. And if you are already having an IT experience, like if you are a person who is already having a IT security experience, you can directly go for the security exam. Okay, that's what I recommend personally, because end of the day, when you have a top level certification, they will never ask you if you have a base level certificate. Let's say, as we discussed, like Krish, I am now new to cloud platform, I don't have any knowledge in cloud, I don't have any experience in cloud. That's completely fine. Still, I don't prefer you go for this. That doesn't mean that I'm against it. It's not like that. I definitely like this because it covers a lot of concepts, but still, if you just want to know cloud for your purpose, like for example, you're a developer in your company, as per your company mandates, you have to know what is cloud and how these things works, then you can go for this. Like you are managing a team, a complete team of cloud professionals or cloud experts, you can learn the CCP just to understand what they're the lingo of them. That's it. So basically, I always recommend you start with this associate level, then you can either go for specialty level or professional level. Okay, like for example, now Krish, I want to write this examination, I definitely say yes, we can write the exam. But before you learn this thing, it's mandatory that you must have a skill set for the AWS certified solutions architect associate. Mandatory, it's a mandate thing. Because no, I'm not talking about certification, the skill is mandatory for you. Because when you have a certification, that is a different story, that is definitely not something which is giving you just to have an introduction, that's all. But except that, your skill matters. Get the skill in associate level thing and learn security specialty or basically professional, whatever it is, that's a good thing. Okay, I'm just saying it's not mandatory you have to learn this, you don't have to you have to master it. I'm just telling that you must have a good level of understanding. First of all, it's very good to know networking. Like, what is networking? Like, you don't have to be a master in like Cisco devices or Juniper devices and all. When you learn say networking, just the fundamentals, IP addressing, like subnetting. Then we have we have a VPN concepts, like network devices concepts, packets. If you just the reference OSI reference model, like this, these kind of basic things are very good to understand. It's mandatory, like if you go for any kind of trainings in either AWS or Azure. The second thing is that it's mandatory that you must at least one OS. If you have a okay, better if you have a Linux foundation, if you have a Linux foundation. So I'm not saying you have to switch to Linux or completely learn Linux. Just a very basic Linux knowledge can help you a lot. Not at all mandatory. Scripting in the sense means, Sukresh, do we have to learn Python, do we have to learn Java? Nothing like that. So this is purely based on each person's requirements and all. Even if you're zero in programming, even if you don't like programming, you can learn this. Because I'm a person as the same, because I don't like programming, or I don't want to be a programmer anymore. But at that point, even if in that case also, I can still do this because it's a different way you have to learn this anyway. Okay, I'll just discuss that in the upcoming lectures. But still, definitely these are the basic skills you need for any of the certifications. People will never tell you the third one because they will feel that people are not interested in this. So but still, good to learn, good to know, that's all. Just to give you a start about what exactly is what you can expect in the AWS certified solutions architect associate new certification. For a long time, like I will say for a long time, like at least for the last from the last we can say uh, 10 years. Okay, AWS architect certification is the leading one. Like, you will find, if you go to any job roles, any cloud level job roles, if it's which is focused on AWS, they will ask you, do you have a AWS architect certification? That is a very basic certification that every companies expect from you. This certification itself is changing. That means that this time the changes are a bit more serious. These changes are actually a bit more detailed and very serious. Okay, that is why I planned for a webinar. If it was just a small change, I will never plan this webinar, because this time the things are always very interesting and a lot of things change in this. That's why I just planned for this webinar. In the new certification is basically having the same name, but the exam code has changed. The previous exam was called as SAA-C02. Okay, now it's called as SAA-C03. This is the latest exam. And the new exam will be active, okay, from uh, August 30th 2022. So now basically what happened, so Krish, I am learning AWS, or currently I am learning for the older AWS certification. Can I write that? Definitely yes. You have much more time. You can write your exams. You can write your AWS architect current existing curriculum examination till August 29, 2022. Like for example, even if you're learning it now, still it's now only April. You can learn May, June, July, August. You have whole 4 months is completely there to learn your existing level certification. So even if you get, look, so Krish, I'm getting my AWS level exam for this particular version, and when the version changes, will it affect my certificate? Never. Whichever certification you're taking, from the date of taking the certification, it is valid for 3 years, and basically they will never, cancel your certification at any point of time for sure. So that won't be a problem for you. So for a certification perspective, if you want to take the existing version of this examination, you can write the exam till August 29, 2022. But I don't recommend you go for this, because the reason, or go for this August 29, because you know just write the exam by July, because just in case if you are not properly trained in this, and if you fail the exam, if you want to have a retake for the exam, the only possibility is that you can do it before the August 29th. Okay, that is basically a very important thing. And the new exam is basically active from August 30. You can write the exam from August 30, 2022. Okay, that's it. So what is the difference? Now that is something which I want to discuss with you. What is the difference between these certification? Because, so Krish, why do I have to know this? It's mandatory that you have to know this thing. Why? Because if you are a person who is trying to pitch into the cloud platform, especially AWS, this certification is a mandate thing to learn. Okay. So let me open this first. So now it's showing the existing version, but they are telling us that this exam is changing, and you will be able to write the exam, only the new exam, starting from August 29, 2022. If you click on learn more, you will be able to see what they're expecting on this particular certificate. See, starting from August 30th, the new version is basically launching. All the exam details are exactly same. See this team, all the exam details are exactly same like the previous exam. So basically what happens, the exam code is only changing, and basically number of questions, passing score, the cost, duration, and all these things are same as the previous exam. So basically it is nothing, it's almost the same only. You have 65 questions total, and you have to get 720 out of 1000. But there is a serious change, I'll come to that. The cost is basically $150 plus tax will come based on your country, and you have 130 minutes to finish the examination, and you can write the exam via Pearson VUE or PSI. Okay, but before I discuss about Think Team, I will just tell you something. I have seen many people tell me this word called as Krish, we will get dumps for the exam, we will buy dumps. Definitely, I also don't, I will not say that you cannot go for dumps. You can also go for dumps, no problem. But the thing is that nowadays the cloud providers know that people are trying to memorize the things and try to pass the exam by learning dumps, and simply by memorizing things, people are trying to write the exam. To avoid that, almost 90 to 95% questions you can expect in the examination will be completely scenario based for sure. Whatever questions you can expect in the examination, 90% to 95% questions will be scenario based. That means that you must have a very good level of knowledge in the topics if you want to uh, you know pass the examinations. Like, okay, let's say you study some dumps or practice questions, definitely that's a good idea, but still it will not give you the exact questions completely. So basically what happens, you must make sure you learn the topics in detail, so that you'll be able to crack the scenario based questions, because they will give you a recommendation. And the biggest problem is that in most questions they will ask you choose two or choose three, choose two or choose three. That means what, you have to choose two answers or three answers in some questions. So basically what happens, if you're not well aware of the architecture, or if you're not well aware of the concepts, you will never be able to crack that. So basically this is a very important thing. Or 90 to 95% questions are scenario based in that. And what I feel a bit weird in this thing is that, team, whenever AWS release a new exam, they will always launch something called as a beta exam. That's a very important thing. Whenever AWS is launching a new exam, they will first of all launch a beta exam. So once they launch a beta exam, it's a test exam. Okay, once they launch a beta exam, you will know how the exam is going to happen. But now in this examination case, they have no beta exams. So basically what happens, they have directly showed for the main exams. There is no beta exams and nobody can write the beta exams now. You can directly write the actual exam only. There is no provision to write the beta exams. Okay. So you have to get the surprises. There is no way you can know what will going to happen. So basically what happens in this SAA-C03, the new upcoming version of Architect, there is no beta exam planned as of now. Okay, that's it. Now regarding the domains, okay, the best part is coming up. Now regarding the domains, okay, so I'll open the actual guide. So team, this is the exam domains. Okay, this is the exam domains of the previous thing. Like the domain 1 is basically design resilient architecture, and domain 2 is basically design high performing architecture. Domain 3 is design secure application architectures. Domain 4 is design cost optimized architecture. So when you come to the new examination, okay, when it comes to the new examination, the good one is that these things, the names are unchanged except for one domain. For all the other domains, the names are unchanged. So which is the domain is having changes, team? The only domain which is basically having the change is that basically when you go for this one, okay, basically when you go for the uh, this one, the domain 3 is having a change. In the domain 3, what happens is that the previous name was design secure applications and architectures. Okay, now it's basically called as design secure architecture. That's all. Previously it was called as design secure applications and architectures. Now it's called as design secure architectures. That's all, except that domain names are almost same. The domain numbers are shuffled, but still the domain names and weightages are changed. Okay, that's it. So now comes the question that, so Krish, why did you plan for this webinar? That is the next thing to answer. So team, this is the curriculum for the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate new exam. You will see that this exam is having a lot of things. See, domain 1, you have a lot of things. The curriculum itself is a complete textbook, you can feel. See, lot of things are there in this particular examination to learn. A lot of things. See, you have to learn a lot of services, lot of things you have in this. Even they have added a lot of things from machine learning and all. Previously there was no machine learning services. Previously there was no this advanced data management services and all these things, but now you have everything in this examination. So how do you approach this? That is the next thing to understand. In every domain team, they have mentioned two things. They have mentioned the word called as knowledge of and skills in. Okay, in every domain they are telling you that you must have a knowledge of these things and skills in these things. So now, first of all, what is the difference between knowledge and a skill? So knowledge is a information acquired. So you have a knowledge about VPN. You have a knowledge about development. You have a knowledge about uh, the business functionality process. You have an idea. So it's about information which is acquired via your reading or listening to something or understanding, watching something. That is what we call as a knowledge. Converting this knowledge to apply is what we call as a skill. Okay, converting your knowledge to apply for various scenarios is what we call as a skill. So AWS has divided into two sections where you have to have an understanding of certain things and you must be able to implement certain. This is just for understanding, this is to implement. Okay, so these words are very important, team. Knowledge and skill. Knowledge is talking about the information which is getting through like reading, watching, understanding, etc. So you have to understand these things, and based on this knowledge you must have a skills to implement these activities. Okay, that's it. So first of all, team, the domain 1, okay, the domain 1 is basically what we call as a design secure architecture. In this domain they are telling you that you must have a knowledge of, see, a lot of things like multi account management, federation, global infrastructure, security, a lot of things like that. So what I felt like is that when you learn this new AWS architect exam, I feel like you are learning the AWS architect professional and security and everything inside this the same certification itself. Because In the previous certifications, they have not given much importance to the advanced security topics in this, but here in this domain, the first thing is that they have given a detailed idea about the AWS identity and access management, multi-account strategy. Because if you go for a cloud platform, companies are now going for multi-account strategy. They want to use multiple accounts. Okay, so they want you to have a knowledge of that thing. Plus you must be able to implement a proper security best practices given by AWS, like ensuring the secure access, MF, and all these things. Then you have to learn about all the security process. You must be able to implement these things. It's mandatory that you must be able to implement these things. Okay, this is what basically they say the first thing. The second thing is that they want you to understand all the security services in AWS. Like for example, there is a lot of security service like guard duty, Macy, detective, and a lot of things like that. They want you to understand all these services. Like the same way we are learning in the AWS security specialty, in the AWS architect itself, they want you to learn all these services in detail. Okay, like this is basically applicable for the all the domains. Like if you go for domain 3 also, so domain 2 also, say basically what happens, they want you to have an understanding of these things. But what I felt is the team, one main change in the exam is that, team, what is the difference between a practitioner and a professional? If I'm asking you, team, how many people know how to implement a Cisco firewall? How many people know how to implement a Windows Server operating system? So that is basically what we call as a role of a practitioner. And a professional is basically a person who is working more in a governance perspective. Like you must know what are the security best practices. You must know what are the security practices you have to align with your company and all these things. It's more of a governance perspective. They define the strategies. So in the new AWS exam, they want you to learn the same thing. In the new AWS exam, they want you to learn that particular, practitioner and professional perspective. See this. I'll give an example here. If you scroll down to the bottom, see, define the BCDR strategy in the cloud platform. Define a proper pattern for distributed design. Design service quotas. So basically what happens, they want you to learn more in a perspective of a governance as well in this. Like that means that when you're learning a particular cloud platform, any like AWS or any cloud platform, when you're learning that, basically people learn how to implement that thing only, but now they want you to learn that detailed high level management aspects of it also. Like for example, tomorrow if there is any kind of requirements coming up, the AWS architect must be able to identify the business requirements and first of all design a strategy and then implement it. Okay, so basically that is how the certification is designed. See, for example, let's say, see, configuring this RAID replicas to meet business requirements. So basically what happens, first of all, the architect must be able to identify what is the business requirements, and they must be able to build a proper strategy for your business. Then they must be able to implement it. Okay, so don't forget, this exam is basically getting that is a change, the primary change I feel in the exam. But definitely in the questions also, you will see the changes. Like in the questions also, what they will do is that they will try to give you more scenarios in a more governance perspective plus implementation perspective as well. But I expect more in a governance perspective. The reason is because this is an architect examination, and architect exam is more about the best practice and all. See, this is the few changes they have implemented. Like for example, things like this AWS data analytics, data science, lake, this AWS kind of data lake, and those kind of concepts they have added much more in this new certification. And usually what they will do is the team, they will tell you what all topics you have to study in the certification. But now in this certification, what I seen is that they will tell you what all things you can avoid in this, because you have to study literally everything in that. Okay, you have to literally study everything in the certification, but what things you can avoid they have mentioned here. See, this is what you can avoid. Except these things, you have to learn everything. See, in the AWS, these services you can avoid learning. Except these things, all the other things you have to learn. That is how the new certification is designed. So basically what we have to understand is the team, if you are planning for the new architect examination, please make sure you refer to the AWS documentation. It's a mandate thing, because what I have seen is that in AWS, if you want to pass the AWS examinations, even yesterday also I got 2 students who passed the AWS security specialty examination, and from the feedback also what they have told me is that definitely they can go through my recordings now, but still more than that, documentation is a very important reference they can use. Documentations and white papers given by AWS. These are a very important point of reference if you want to pass the examination. My personal recommendation is that don't rely on textbooks for the exam. Okay, do not rely on textbook for the exam, because see, now if you basically search in the Google for the latest AWS exam textbooks, you'll be able to find a lot of textbooks, but that things are released on 2021 or 2020. So basically what happens, a lot of things keep on changing in AWS every day. So avoid reading textbooks, read the documentations and white papers if you have some doubts or if you want to understand something. That is the first thing you have to understand. Then there are certain services you have to learn in this. For example, let's say many people ask me this question also, Krish, do we have to learn all these machine learning services? So why an architect has to learn machine learning services? The reason is that even if you are a cloud architect, maybe in your company you may have to implement a lot of machine learning services, right? So it is mandatory that you must have an understanding of this. They don't want you to basically do this labs and basically be master in machine learning, but they want you to understand what is the purpose of these services, so that if there is a requirement coming up tomorrow, you will be able to choose the best solution. Okay, as an architect, AWS now want you to understand these services in a high level overview. For example, there is a service called as AWS recognition. This service can help you a lot, like it can basically give you a lot of benefits, but how this can be practically implemented for your application, I'll give an example, team. I'll give an example. Now we have a AWS recognition. This basically help us to do a lot of things. One is that it helps us for image moderation. The first thing it helps is that image moderation. What is an image moderation, team? Team, can you post any kind of nude photos in Facebook? In YouTube also, when you're trying to open some contents, they will show you this message. This is a very sensitive content. You have to first of all sign in if you want to open this content. Have you seen that, team? By using something called as a image moderation. So basically what happens, the team, when you implement this recognition service in your application, what happens, this will basically scan the videos and images you're uploading to a particular your application, and before it is displayed or before it's uploaded to your application, it can basically verify if it's meeting the standards and then allow it to upload. Also, like, this is a very common thing. Now there is an application telling you upload your photo. Instead of your photo, you're uploading some celebrity photos. This tool can identify that. Like this, there is a lot of capabilities we have for machine learning. So basically, they want you to understand these real-time use cases. What is the purpose of these things in real time? Like, how can we implement this in real time? For example, let's say we have a transcribe, or we have, so like I'm saying something, how do I convert this particular words to text? How do I basically make it more optimized? How do I convert a picture to text? Like this, there are many tools. Like normally what happens is, team, our normal tools are able to convert the typed text text in pictures into normal text. But basically what happens, even if you write something here, it is now able to convert, right? Because of this machine learning capabilities. And also basically what happens, as a cloud service architect, you have to know these services in a high level. For example, you have to know what is an AWS outpost, how it works. So how can we implement VMware Cloud in AWS? Like that, they want you to learn certain things in a high level overview also. Okay, that is how the certification organized. So the primary thing is that you must understand the priority of each services, like in what level you have to learn each services. Then based on that, you have to learn the things, and end of the day, in your company, you may not be using all these things. Maybe only 2 or 3 services you may be using, but still basically what happens, you have to learn all these things if you want to become a cloud architect. That is why they always ask you they will always add a lot of service to the certification. Any queries, team? Any queries on this, anyone? So team, now Basically, when you go for this certification, okay, the key thing is that, like, if you want to, like it, I'm not saying that you have to always go for the examination part of it, but more than that, as we discussed, you have to go through a learning part of it. Because if you want to learn DevOps or security or professional or anything like that, this particular thing is a mandate knowledge for you to acquire. Okay, that's it. So, and one more thing, how deep you have to learn AWS DevOps if you need in security. See, definitely in security also you have to learn DevOps a bit. Why? Because let's assume that you are a person who want to work in security. So how do you ensure the security of a CI/CD pipeline? How do you ensure the security of a container? How do you ensure the security of a enterprise network? So it's mandatory that as a security architect, you must know the concept of DevOps and the common process of this DevOps working. It's mandatory for you to understand.